What morbid fact do you know? NSFW. If you electrocute someone while they are submerged in water, it won't leave burn marks. In Formula 1, safety belts were not mandatory until 1972. Before then, drivers believed it better to be ejected in a crash and either die instantly from a broken neck or suffer many broken bones. The alternative, they thought, was to be trapped and essentially cremated alive should the gas tanks ignite. You can die from pooping too hard. Edit. So I see a lot of people mentioning Elvis. Keep in mind, yes, this was ultimately the reason why Elvis died, but it was also in large part due to his terrible eating habits. He also had an almost religious love of cheeseburgers. This contributed heavily to his death. A body can swell to 3 times its normal size, especially if the person passes away in a bathtub. Before you die, your last words could be, "I don't feel so good." I was a paramedic for 15 years and heard dozens of people's final words. The phrase I heard most often, possibly from half to 3/4 of them, were some form of, "I don't feel so good." I've also heard, "Wait, something's wrong, something's happening. I don't feel right, wait, something's wrong, it's happening. Oh no, oh no." People feel the blood leaving their brain, I think. Must be like a rush. A professor at my lecture today said that deer will lay on decaying corpses because they produce heat and the deer like that. Basically, deer treat corpses as their personal sauna. Judith Barcy was the young actress who voiced Anne-Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven and Ducky in The Land Before Time. She was murdered at the age of 10 by her abusive father, who also killed her mother at the same time. Judith's gravestone displays Ducky's catchphrase, "Yep, yep, yep," quote. If bodies are kept in coffins that are sealed tight enough, such as the in-wall type of memorial, sometimes enough gases can build up that the body basically explodes and can spill out onto the ground. The youngest inmate to have died at Kingston Pen, Canada's first prison, was 9 years old. He died of tuberculosis and his crime was larceny in 1857. Edit. I'm a tour guide at this site and I've got plenty more morbid facts like that. Feel free to PM with questions. The youngest female inmate to die at KP was 14. Also of tuberculosis, and her crime was not listed. This was 1867. We had another 13-year-old boy who died of tetanus and his crime was also larceny in 1857. As a striker saw cuts through the skullcap during an autopsy, the smell created is exactly like Fritos. There is a phenomenon in the Philippines of people being murdered after singing My Way by Frank Sinatra in karaoke bars. In the Middle Ages, you could be boiled in a pot of lead for certain crimes. What crimes they were I have forgotten, but it certainly was a thing. If you want to dump a body, it can take up to 2 to 4 weeks to fully decompose if out in the open. But if you bury it in a casket, it can take up to 44 years. You can tell someone is dead by trying to move their jaw. It's one of the first body parts to show signs of rigidity. Also, not sure of how much of a standard practice it is, but if you donate body to a school, they will possibly ship your body elsewhere. I know I saw a comment about how you need to be nearby the place you donate to because they don't want to ship you to them, but they may ship you elsewhere. I know at least at the local college by me, they get all their cadavers from Texas, in Illinois, and we ship ours to them, so that there's less of a chance that a student may know the person. And they also cover the faces unless doing any sort of head-face things. Again, at least the one by me does. There is a parasite called dracunculiasis, or more commonly, guinea worm, that can enter your leg through drinking infected water. You won't notice anything until approximately 1 year later, when a small portion breaks the skin to release larvae. At this point, It's a meter long. A meter long. And it has to be extracted centimeter by disgusting centimeter. NTDs are the stuff of nightmares. On Mt. Everest, you have the Rainbow Valley, the last zone to climb to reach the peak. Which sounds cute, but it's really the colorful jackets of dead climbers who are frozen in time against the white harsh snow. Also, when close to the peak, the oxygen levels are so low that the body is starting to die. You only have a few minutes to reach the top. There's been multiple cases of people actually ending up being eaten by an escalator. Morbidly obese people need to be cremated at a lower temperature so the fat doesn't quickly liquefy and start pouring out of the people oven. After the Pulse nightclub shooting, when the cops were investigating, you'd think it was pretty quiet in there. It was actually a cacophony of ringing cell phones. So many friends and loved ones calling people they knew were there, hoping they'll answer the phone and say they're okay. The whole, if your erection lasts more than 4 hours, receive immediate medical, or whatever is the reason why the Brazilian wandering spider, located in the Amazon, is so dangerous. Its bite is supposed to make you have an erection for a long time, and it's pretty hard to find medical services when you're in the Amazon. What happens with boners is that blood fills up the penis and mostly stays there until the boner is gone. If it stays longer than 4 hours, the blood is deprived of oxygen. It can turn into a jelly-like substance with lots of clotting. So leaving it untreated could clog you up as the blood flows back. By the time you get to a doctor, they have two options. One is get a 60 milliliter syringe with a needle and suck out the blood. That's the consistency of toothpaste, while also flushing it with salt water. Also with syringe and needle. When those clots stop the needle. The second option, which is usually saved for last, is to vertically insert a small blade inside the meatus, slit in the head and sharply twist it by 90 degrees. Then just let it drain. Freshly deceased people can sometimes expel their stomach contents by way of their esophagus if rolled onto their side. Also, it's the worst smelling thing in the world. It is way easier than you would expect to break someone's ribs during CPR, and it feels really weird. Pop 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 like bubble wrap. There's something called anesthesia awareness, where if certain people go into surgery and they don't give you enough anesthesia, it will look like you're asleep, eyes closed, not talking or moving, but the patient can still hear and feel everything that's happening. But here's the scary part. You're unable to move, speak or open your eyes. Unless they have a monitor to show your brain activity. You're stuck with having to endure the pain. The outer layer of your eye protects your inner eye from your immune system, otherwise the immune system will attack the inner eye. In other words, the outer layer of the eye keeps the rest of your eye a secret. When you're aware of just how dangerous escalators are, it's pretty surprising that they exist. If you get caught in one, you just die. It sucks you in. Meanwhile, elevators are the safest way of any mechanical travel. The astronauts of Space Shuttle Challenger didn't die until the spacecraft hit the ocean. They fell through the air for almost 3 minutes. The dolphin from the television show Flipper committed suicide. When they embalm people, they just dump all the juices in the sewer. The second person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel surviving with very serious injuries was Bobby Leach. 15 years later, he slipped on an orange, not banana, peel on the street. This fall caused a leg infection so bad he eventually passed away from the medical complications it caused. Death by strangulation can turn teeth pink. The stress on the pulp chambers causes it to hemorrhage, so the blood colors the inside. You can skin many creatures, including humans, alive. They will stay alive for longer than you'd think, even if you're rough. Longer if you're careful. Edit. I've never done this. Never will. Don't worry. Just know from the internet. Second-hand fact. So I'm hoping I'm right. Dying due to being encased in concrete is horrifying. You don't crush or asphyxiate so much as burn, as the concrete sucks all the moisture from your body. Also, it lets off heat as it dries. Probably the worst way to go I can think of. Female dragonflies fake their own death to prevent rape. The male dragonflies scoop out the sperm of their rival out of their mate. When you blush, the lining of your stomach also turns red. Being the oldest person alive means that every single human being who was alive at the day you were born has now died. In some cultures, they practice cannibalistic rituals. They believe eating their deceased loved ones is an honor. It's called endocannibalism. When you die, your stomach will digest itself. Brain-eating amoeba exist, and you can track them from swimming in lakes or tainted tap water. They live in the US and UK. If you plan to donate your body, they generally only want you if you are the right size and aren't obese. Looking into donating my body to science led to some crazy details. Also, your family has to pay for your cremation if you want your body to go home. Also, don't plan on dying far away from where you plan to donate. They really don't want to ship you. The song Baby Shark is actually the perfect rhythm to guide infant CPR. After a little bit of being burned alive, you will have sustained enough nerve damage to not feel any pain before dying shortly. Many pets die because their owner dies unexpectedly and nobody comes to check on them in time. With the proper vacuum system, the human body can be drained of all its blood in 11 seconds. Oh, here's another one. During the French Revolution, Robespierre, etc., and the usage of the guillotine, the people to be executed fought to be first, as the blood would dull after use and wouldn't cut a head clean off in once. Meaning people who were behind the line had to be beheaded in multiple attempts. Human taste like veal, and taste different depending on what part you eat, similar to pigs or cows. An adult human body impacting on concrete does not sound organic or wet at all. It reminded me more of a car accident than anything else. Source: last week someone committed suicide by jumping off of the building I live in. I heard the impact and saw the body when I walked out onto my terrace to see what was going on. Second morbid fact, from the same source. The human brain looks far more white and pink when it gets ejected from the skull. I always thought a live brain would be red from the blood in it, but I was wrong. Edit. Words. Before being born, shark fetuses fight each other to live, not having enough nutrition supply for both of them this year. After developing enough, they begin to battle. The winner gets to eat their sibling and its supply. You have to have a life insurance policy for 2 years before they'll pay out for suicide. Cyanide tastes sweet. Burned human flesh smells like pork.